When I see my naturopath versus when I see my doctor, two very different experiences.
People sometimes still want a quick fix, and naturopathy sometimes isn't that. I don't want to just set you up with supplements and make you feel amazing for 3 months. I want to set you up so you know how to eat, you know how to live, you know when you might need things and what you might need. I'm not doing my job right if you're still seeing me for years.
Welcome back to another episode of Self-Dom Beautiful Humans, a safe place to learn and get inspired to live your healthiest and most fulfilling life. I am Dom, your host, and I feel so grateful to be living my passion by getting to interview inspiring and knowledgeable guests. On today's episode, I have Niesha Gorring, a radiographer and naturopath whose passion lies in closing the gap between conventional and naturopathic medicine. Neisha's drive came from her own story with her dad, who was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma and secondary brain cancer 7 years ago. Neisha will dive into this on today's episode, but this story really transformed her life. And with my mum battling cancer herself, it touched a string in my heart and I had to have her on the mic. Neisha has such a holistic approach to health and wellness, and I'm so excited to have her on here. She's come from Hobart today to record in person. So welcome to Self-Dom.
It is so nice to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. You're the first person I've had who is a radiographer and naturopath. How did you get into this?
Yeah, it is quite a mixed bag, isn't it? And different.
Yeah.
So I did radiography first. So I did a Bachelor of Medical Radiation Science. That's what it falls under. Because I had, an interest in health, medicine, but wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do. So it's a really good sort of starting point, and a lot of people do like the first year and deviate out from there. And even like going into it, I knew it wasn't a forever job, but it was, a good starting point. So finished that degree, worked as a radiographer for a few years, and it sort of tied in with Dad getting diagnosed and me just sort of feeling that something was still missing. And with radiography, like, you see so much disease, and so much of what I was seeing was either preventable, if not reversible. And I guess I found that really hard, and it wasn't as fulfilling as what I thought work could be, or working in healthcare. So that was a big push alongside Dad to go back and study to be a naturopath. So then I enrolled in a Bachelor of Health Science, naturopathy, and then went back to uni again. So did a whole nother degree.
Amazing.
It's so worth it.
So you're full of knowledge. So I'm really going to pick your brain.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be important to kind of understand what happened with your dad, because that obviously was a real pivotal moment in your career change and in your life. So how did that play out?
Yeah, so Dad got diagnosed when I was actually in my last year of radiography. So it was whilst I was in exams, so it was probably like the last few months, to be honest. It was seven years ago, so I was 22 at the time. So young, and obviously totally not on the horizon of having to worry about my parents, like both very fit and healthy. My dad was a builder and had an incredibly healthy upbringing as far as like camping, spending so much time in nature. My parents were good with food. We all played sport, like really no, I guess, red flags for that to be on the cards. Not that it is for a lot of people. Obviously came as a huge shock. So my parents were just visiting on a holiday. They came up from a snow trip and had come back to Newcastle to see me. They were already living in Tassie, and Dad just had slurred speech talking to me for like 10 seconds. Yeah, out of the blue. It was actually on Father's Day, and I sort of like stopped. Mum didn't hear it and was like, Dad, what? Dad, what's going on? And I thought he actually had a stroke. So I was like, oh. And my mum used to work at a doctor's surgery back in Newcastle, so we booked him in for an appointment and booked him in for an MRI, and we're just like, let's just get checked. You're here for a week. And then things sort of unfolded. Before he had his appointment, he was riding his bike with one of my sisters who's actually a nurse, and it happened again, but for longer. So they took him to hospital. They sort of thought it was going to be a stroke based on presentation, and like he was totally fine aside from these two like minute episodes. And so it was a huge, huge shock after they did a CT scan and found multiple brain tumours.
Wow.
Yeah. So, which we were like, either there's no best case, like either best case it's primary brain, which has a really poor prognosis for a lot of people, or it's secondary, meaning at stage 4, it's spread to other parts of the body. So for people, I guess, that don't understand staging of cancer, stage 4 is like the worst it can be, sort of thing. It's the reason being because it has spread from its primary site into other sites or other organs and entered other body systems, making it quite hard to treat. So there was really no best case scenario, but it turned out primary melanoma, secondary brain. So they actually never found Dad's primary, which is also quite unlucky. It can happen, but it's quite rare. So he's had many, many things cut off over the years, but they've still never found his primary. So with melanoma, it can like do the damage and then regress. Yeah. Which is wild.
What came to mind there is like, I feel this in my heart at the moment because I walk around and I'm like, the sun feels so healthy. It feels so good for you. Like being in the sun feels good. And as you said, like your dad was in nature, really outdoorsy, and that damage from the sun has that long-term impact. And I'm sure being in, being in radio, you would see the impact of melanoma, especially in Australians.
Yeah, I definitely do. And even when I go and get skin checks, like I'm pretty onto it, obviously now. And like it's scary how common it is, and especially in young people as well. But I guess I feel quite conflicted too because I love spending time in the sun and still very much do, but am more sun safe and more onto spot checks and so forth. But it's interesting because he was so healthy. And I think it was like catch-22. Like he lived such a healthy lifestyle that it got to stage 4 and so severe for him to have his first symptom because his body, they think he had it for years.
Wow.
And he just fought it unknowingly. Which is quite crazy. But I guess, it's hard. It's hard to tell. But it's been, a long road. He's had 4 brain surgeries over the first few years. No medical intervention for about 4 years now. So he hasn't been on treatment for about 4 years.
Amazing.
Yeah, which
that's
is
incredible.
So good. But it certainly wasn't easy at the start. He had 4 brain surgeries. He's had targeted cell therapy, immunotherapy, because chemo actually doesn't work on melanoma, so it's not even an option. You always go to immunotherapy. He's had emergency spinal surgery because of repercussions of medications and then seizures. Wow. And so it's been definitely a tough few years initially, but to see where he is today. And I guess, exactly what we're going to talk about today is like sharing what he did outside conventional medicine, which I think he wouldn't be here without both. So
you dived into your naturopathy degree when this was all happening?
After. So Dad got diagnosed when I was finishing radiography, and then I think I had about 2 to 3 years gap. In which that space that was really when Dad was going through all the treatment in and out of hospital, brain surgeries. So I'd fly to Tassie a lot. And then, it just got to the point that I was flying down too much, like every second week. And my work was amazing back in Newcastle here in radiography because it all sort of unfolded at that hospital. And as I was seeing interviews for getting a job there, and so they were really understanding. And it just got to a point that, I was like, what am I doing? I just need to move down and spend some time with them. And then I think that, I think it was always there that I wanted to do something, and I wish it didn't take Dad getting cancer to make me realise what it was that I wanted to do. But I think, such a positive has come out from such a negative thing.
Yeah, that's so beautiful for you to say that. And I think there's always a silver lining to everything. And I think that's really inspiring for a lot of listeners who might be in a rock bottom, not with illness, but just lack of purpose.
Yeah.
And that's really where the growth happens.
100%.
It's real pivotal in your life. So if you're someone listening and feeling this way, you're a prime example that it can, lead to something more purposeful and passionate for you. So you did your naturopathy degree. What elements of that did your dad take on in his treatment?
So much. And that honestly started before I became a naturopath. Like, I sort of spoke to him yesterday and I was like, hey, Dad, like I'm going to talk about you a lot tomorrow. Is that okay? And he's like, yeah, go for it.
Cute.
So he has been a client of mine, like through student clinic. I still treat him now. I do have a beautiful mentor who specialises in oncology because it's something like an avenue of naturopathy that a lot of naturopaths steer clear of because it's very complex. Like, I mean, like beyond just, oh, here's some supplements, X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, if you're on strict chemo, these are the days you need to take supplements. This is the half-life of the drug. This is when you need to seize them. Chemo, not interfere. This is when you go back on them. So it's like quite a strict plan.
Yeah, because my mum has been told that she can't have any supplements.
Yeah, which is not necessarily right or wrong, I guess. You just need to know what you're doing. So I did a lot of extra training with her so that I guess if I saw oncology clients, I was a bit more prepared.
Yeah.
So yes, she's been really good for guidance, but ultimately nothing fancy. Like Dad, when he got diagnosed, again, like my parents were super healthy, but I think their take on it was like, okay, well, how we're living now at the moment allow this cancer to grow. So something needs to change to make it stop or to make it go away. So they changed the way they ate, like really cleaned up things. Like Dad will occasionally have a drink for a special occasion, but initially for probably like the first few years, gave up alcohol. Not that he was a heavy drinker, but just changed the way he ate. Like I just remember him just making these massive salads and like from a naturopathic point of view, like plant diversity, fiber, like all of those beautiful, what we call like polyphenol rich foods, which are basically just like the most amazing anti-inflammatory and antioxidant rich foods that anyone can consume. And movement, like he still would prioritize, no matter how tired he was, like I guess gauging by how he felt, he would still go for a walk or a ride or spend time in nature, still prioritise seeing and spending time with us girls. I'm one of 4 girls, and my mum. And yeah, just like really, I guess, simplified his life and readjusted his day. Like his day suddenly became about what food he ate, how much water he drank, if he juiced, and where he would go for a big walk from. Like he'd have an afternoon nap. And I feel like in general, my parents have always been very positive, which I think sometimes I take that for granted because I know there's probably a lot of people listening, and I've certainly experienced it when people have asked me, being like, how did you get your parents motivated? Like my mum or dad just got diagnosed with this, but they just sort of have given up. And I'm like, I feel for you because I cannot relate to that. My parents were so proactive, and that was before me even studying, being like, but yeah, I guess as I've studied and learnt, I've shared knowledge with them and read books and made notes and coached them. I sort of do, one of my sisters is a nutritionist, so she just did a Masters of Nutrition through Deakin and is studying clinical nutrition now. She's also a radiographer.
Wow.
Yeah, so between her and I think we do regular check-ins with mum and dad, like in addition to the GP visits, oncology visits and so forth. Like if neither party will run bloods and I'm like, oh, mum, you haven't had bloods done for X amount of time, let's run those. And just we'll do regular check-ins, supplements, make sure they're well stocked for things. And yeah, I guess just like good communication and day in, day out. And then there's other things, I guess, that Dad's implemented now. He swims in the ocean every day, which for people listening, like Tassie ocean is
freezing.
Cold. Yeah. So he goes in for 20 minutes every day.
Wow.
Summer or winter. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that your dad would firstly be so proud of you and your sisters.
Yeah.
What an amazing bunch that he has around supporting him and loving him.
Yeah.
But the things that you're saying you prioritize, it's like nutrient-dense food, getting out in nature, relationships, water, rest.
Yeah.
These are things that we should be prioritizing all the time.
Yeah.
To help prevent illness.
100%. And I think like healthcare and like obviously supplements and herbs are beautiful and I certainly use them in practice, but they should be in addition to, like, first and foremost, I think what we were talking about before the podcast, like people sometimes still want a quick fix and naturopathy sometimes isn't that. But that's the beauty of it. Like I don't want to just set you up with supplements and make you feel amazing for 3 months. I want to set you up so you know how to eat, you know how to live, you know when you might need things and what you might need. Like I'm not doing my job right if you're still seeing me for years.
Yeah.
Unless things prop up and you're like, oh, I need a little bit of tension here or there. Like that's always been my take on it. And I think my parents have really nailed that, like just nailed the lifestyle.
It is true. And I think stress is something we haven't even spoken about yet, but that was the one thing that I've been really trying to reduce in my life, in my protocol. And I've done 2 weekends in a row, sound healing and breath work.
Amazing.
I've done weekly massages. I'm not making plans in the morning so I can do my red light therapy, my meditation, my journaling. Like these sort of boundaries I've put in place to reduce stress in my life have led to me probably absorbing my nutrients better, me sleeping better. And this has done wonders for my skin. Like honestly, in the last 2 weeks, I've seen such a shift because my skin was just every day new blemishes. And obviously it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just being like, okay, my body's telling me something's not right. And I've stuck to the protocol for nearly 3 months now. And now I'm seeing the results.
Your skin looks beautiful.
Thank you.
It's definitely going.
But, you know, I was told from someone to go on Roaccutane and do this because, you know, your job is this. And I've just really stuck it through and I'm really proud of myself. And I know that the learnings I've taken from this protocol I'll carry through the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like I'm a better partner because I'm not stressed. Yeah. I'm a better partner and a better daughter to my family because I'm clearing up space in my schedule. Yeah. And I just think people are running themselves to the ground and they want these quick fixes. And even if they fix it now, it may lead to illness in the future.
Yeah, and I think it just masks so much, right? Like Roaccutane is great, it works, but then what? When you come off it, if you want a baby or whatever that may be, like you obviously can't be on Roaccutane and trying to fall pregnant, like whatever the reason may be for you coming off it, but it's probably going to come back. It's the same with a lot of things like the oral contraceptive pill. Like if you take that to mask, say, heavy periods, like I always ask people in clinic, like if they're on or just come off it or wanting to come off it, I'm like, why did you go on it? Because that's really important because 9 times out of 10, that's going to come back and maybe worse. So you need to do the work. It's just a lot of these things are just masking the symptom, putting a Band-Aid over them, but they're not actually fixing them, which is what naturopathy is all about. Right?
This is a little off topic because I know we were going down the like illness and disease route. Yeah. But on the topic of pill or birth control, a lot of people ask me what they should do before they get off the pill to help with possible negative symptoms. What do you recommend in clinic?
It really depends on if it's like what they're coming off. Like, are they getting the like
a pill, like
or a contraceptive pill? Yeah. So I'd be looking at like how long they've been on it for, because that's going to tell you a bit about nutrient depletion. Like the one that comes to mind is B vitamins. Generally speaking,
they make your pee so yellow.
Yeah, they do.
Like, what the hell?
I always like to warn people if I give them a B complex. I'm like, don't freak out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just think like, it just depends on the person. It depends on what was going on before they went on it and as to how long I would recommend like starting the protocol coming off. But a lot of it is about replenishing the nutrient depletion. So B complex, zinc, magnesium, quite a few other things, but also looking at the person and what they're dealing with in addition to. And liver, like a lot of liver support, because obviously it's detoxing. Like you've got to go in quite gently because you don't want to clear out things. You've got to be careful. And if they're on other drugs or pharmaceuticals or so forth, you've got to take that into consideration. But my take on it would be supporting the liver through foods. You can do that through a lot, like increasing certain liver-rich foods and herbs though as well, herbs and nutrients. So they'd be the first places I'd be starting and then supporting them as they come off and after they come off to support anything that comes up. Yeah,
I think a lot of people find that super helpful. Yeah. I've been obsessed with milk thistle.
Milk thistle
that's so really helping me get rid of toxins. Yeah. So back to the differences between conventional and naturopathy. You kind of want to be this hybrid, which I don't think we've seen a lot of. When I see my naturopath versus when I see my doctor, 2 very different experiences. Yeah. What would you like to see when someone goes into the doctor's office?
I guess in an ideal world for the appointment to be longer than 10 minutes.
And not cost $300.
Yeah. But I mean, that's at no fault of the GP, right? That is our healthcare system, which we are so lucky to have. And that's Medicare. But I think ultimately, I think an achievable change would be that if the GP doesn't have time for you to explore X, Y, and Z, like if you're going, you know how sometimes you bank things up and you're like, I've just got to quickly talk about this, and this, and often a few would get neglected. I wish that they had the capacity or knowledge or confidence or, to refer on, to be like, look, like your periods are all over the place, they're irregular, rather than just oral contraceptive pill, being like, why don't you go and see this naturopath or this nutritionist, or I've heard acupuncture is great for that, or why don't you try this program and then try it for 12 weeks, see how you go, come back to me. Like, refer on if you don't have the capacity. Like, obviously they're so knowledgeable, but we can't expect them to be across everything in conventional medicine and my world as well. So I think, having that opportunity to be like, this is not, I can help you in this setting if things don't change, but why don't you try X, Y, and Z first? Because I think so many people would get so much more out of that. I guess like if people, like you go to the GP's office and they check your blood pressure and they maybe your temperature, your pulse, and I wish that it was just standardised. Doesn't matter if it's a male or female GP. If you're a menstruating of age, female, then I wish that it was asked about your menstrual cycle, because it's such a good report card of how, I guess, healthy, but like how well you've been in that last month. Like, and it tells you a lot about someone's health. Like, I think so much gets missed. Like, I primarily see a lot of women and hormonal health in clinic. And I guess like A, what people put up with and think is normal, and B, like the heartache. Like, I see a lot of infertility and I'm like, oh my goodness, like how to get to 12, 18 months of trying and GP visits, and within 10 minutes of chatting, I'm like 90% sure you've got PCOS, or like, wow, or this. And that's really hard. And I think like a lot of that could be prevented. But again, I guess like ultimately the GP appointment would be longer, allowing time to delve into these things, but that's likely not going to change. So I wish that they, had the capacity and the knowledge and the resources to refer on, because I think, it's accepting that you're like, I don't have the time or resources to help you, but this person might. And if you don't get anything out of it in 12 weeks, come back and see me, then we'll explore other options. I wish that going on medication or going to a specialist was not the first line of healthcare.
I agree. And I also think that doctors kind of getting a bad rap in the wellness space at the moment, because they never give you nutrition advice. They're not nutritionists. They're doctors.
They are not taught it.
Yeah, they're not taught it, but I also think like that's okay.
Yeah.
But they also should have the right to give people who are uneducated about it a chance to learn. So like by following through with, go to this naturopath or this nutritionist, that will give people the knowledge, because we're in such a wellness space that things that are obvious to us are obvious. But 99% of people, they don't realize that what you eat will impact your health.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason that so many people are obese at the moment. There's a reason that cardiovascular diseases are going up. There's a reason. It's in our food. And I think they almost have a right to just share that knowledge with people.
I think so. I think they have a duty of care, as do we, like to refer back to them, right? If I see something that's like a red flag, I refer back because that's my duty of care. And like I just think, I mean, I don't know how much nutrition they get, but I know that it's not much in a medical degree.
I've heard it's 8 hours.
Yeah, I think it's only, like a very,
like 2 classes.
Short, yes.
In like an 8-year degree.
Yeah, so that would be amazing to see that change.
But then you're seeing certain pioneers like Dr. Hyman.
Yeah.
Have you seen like Doctor's Pharmacy podcast? Like he was a doctor. He ended up getting so sick and then went into the whole natural route. Yeah. And now, he's such a thought leader in this space. So I think there are certain doctors who are realizing, oh shit, this is a blanket method we're using and it's not going to the root cause.
There definitely is. I certainly follow a lot on Instagram, like Doctors for Nutrition, and it's amazing. Like there is a lot of specialists sort of onboarding that now, which is great. So I would love to see a change in that for sure. And I think, if they just don't have the resources to refer on, and because, right, like they've got so much to know, and that for the most part, a lot of them are really good at their job, and we rely on them for certain things. But I think just like recognizing the strengths of conventional medicine and recognizing the strengths of naturopathy would be the ultimate goal.
Well, I mean, for me, my mum wouldn't be here without it.
My dad too.
You know?
Yeah,
so
without
I
a
have
doubt.
such a respect for doctors, such a respect for the medical centre. But I remember recently mum was going through chemo and they said to her she's really, really underweight.
Yeah.
She needs to put on weight. And they said to her, you need to have ice cream every night.
Yeah.
And she said that to me, and my mum's smart enough to know that that is not a good decision because sugar feeds cancer. But my blood boiled that they gave that advice because so many people wouldn't know that. Like they would do that. And I said, why don't you have a spoonful of peanut butter? Why don't you eat a whole avocado?
Yeah.
Have a tub of coconut yogurt.
Yeah.
Like coconut yogurt would probably have
Healthier
the same
fats.
calories as ice cream, but at least it's healthy fats, probiotics.
Yeah.
It's just, that stuff's disheartening because the amount of people who don't have people like you or I around them to give them that knowledge.
It is. It's really sad. Like, it shouldn't be a privilege to come and see me or have access to that.
No, I think it should be subsidised.
Yeah.
Because the fact that it's not on Medicare.
It's really hard. Like, that's a big debate, like, as to whether naturopathy will get regulated and become.
It needs to be.
I think so, for accessibility. Like, it truly. That's something I find really hard. Like, it should not be a privilege to go and see a naturopath.
But am I being conspiracy theorist here? Because I feel like Big Pharma and stuff, they don't want us to be well.
No, because...
They don't want us to be well because they make so much money when we get injections and we take antibiotics.
Yeah.
So why would they want us to know that you can prevent disease with food?
Yeah.
But is that being conspiracy theorist?
Oh, I tend to agree with that though. Yeah, I think a lot of it is to do with pharmaceutical companies, but how incredibly sad that that's the kind of world that we live in.
And that's why I'm so big on this podcast, so passionate about spreading this sort of information because you're in control of your health if you want to be.
Yeah. 100%.
You can absorb the information to have good energy, to feel confident in your body, to have a positive mindset. Like, you just need to absorb the right information.
Yeah,
and like
that you're in control.
You're in control of your own health. No matter what the governments are throwing at us, like, you are in control.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think, like, that's my whole thing. And, like, what I've spoken to you about before is, like, I guess, going against the grain and not just being a naturopath, being like, herbs will save the world. Like, you don't need conventional medicine. Like, I would love, love, love nothing more than to one day have a practice with a GP because I would learn so much from them, but I think they would equally learn so much from me, and it would make the patient experience so much easier, like, as far as bloods go and, like, cost-wise for clients. Like, if a GP won't test something that I've asked for, that I try to never ask outside Medicare boundaries, and I'll often write a reason to help them, to be like, I'm basically handing you on a silver platter what I want asked and giving you the reasoning if you were to be audited by Medicare, like, this is why, this is justified. But, like, that's, if the GP says no, then it's like, I've just sent a client back to the GP. They've paid for the appointment. They might only get some of the bloods done. Then they come back to me and I'm like, we really need this blood test and this is why. Then they do it privately and it costs them. So I just think, like, for patient care and for ease, and I think it's just a better way forward. Like, I can't imagine, like, I guess in radiography, I still work with specialist doctors 3 days a week, every day.
Yeah.
Like, all day, every day. And I learned so much from them. And I have a lot of doctors as clients, which is amazing. Where, like, I guess the conventional system has not, like, failed them, but a little bit. Like, they've come to me and they're like, I've had the colonoscopy, the endoscopy, I'm not getting answers, but something's not right. I'm like, I love this.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it should be, I think.
I think, I totally agree. There needs to be this happy balance.
Yeah.
It'd be so amazing to walk into your doctor's office and have your GP and your naturopath there and you just do it all in one, because I think that often creates resistance to even doing any of the tests.
Yeah.
But even getting checked, because you're like, oh, it's such an effort. I have to go here and then I have to do this and then I'm going to spend $500 and may not even get an answer.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting a colonoscopy and endoscopy next month, obviously with my mum's history of bowel cancer and just like I've had gut issues. And first of all, it's costing me so much.
Yeah,
it's really not possible for everyone to go and do this test. but I'm very curious to see what the aftercare will be because it's like they're literally going to see my gut. Like, do you know what I mean? So watch this space because I share everything on this damn podcast.
Yeah, I'll have to follow up.
Yeah, I will not share me in the room. I'm really scared. I'm actually really scared to get a colonoscopy.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, I definitely think there needs to be a combination, and I really hope we see it in the future.
Yeah.
So you've got Whole Good Health, which is your brand, your business. What is like the most common thing that people come to see you for?
A lot of gut issues.
Why do you think we're all dealing with gut issues?
I think ultimately, like, there can be so many reasons. Like,
but is it worse than ever? Because everyone has gut issues.
Yeah. Basically, like, even if people come and see me, nothing to do with gut, I always go over digestive system, always, and go through 24-hour dietary recall, zero judgment. But I'm like, I want to hear what you eat in a day. Like, let's talk about it. And how many stools you pass, what it's like everything. I'm like, no much, like, don't feel like you're oversharing. I want to hear it. But I think, there's a number of factors, like obviously with stress, our environment, our products, all of those play an impact. But I think a lot to do with the food that we eat. Like you look at grocery stores and Woolworths, like I certainly shop there occasionally for, I don't know, canned stuff or bits and pieces, but it's not food. Like so much of it is not food.
Even the outside of the, the rule to eat the outside of
outskirts,
But then all the pesticides on the fruit and veg.
Yeah.
Like, is that really damaging to our gut?
Yes, within reason, yeah.
Like the amount of times I've just gone to Woolies, taken an apple and eaten it.
Yeah.
Not washed it.
Yeah.
And then now I'm like only organic. Yeah. Really strict. But it's also so expensive. Like it's not for everyone.
There's beautiful washes. Like I think
Koala
Eco is one that I have because I try to buy organic or go to the farmers markets. But if we don't, like it's not the end of the world, I'll just chuck some of their fruit and veg wash into the sink and soak things. And that's pretty cheap. Like that product is pretty cheap and a lot of stockists around now. So that's something that people could use if they can't afford organic. But yeah, I think the food that we eat is so pro-inflammatory. Like all this packaged stuff, my greatest bit of advice for people, like I will hone in on specific foods. Like I do a lot of gut testing in clinic. So I use a company, they send off a stool sample and it comes up with like a 13, 14 page report that is amazing. And I sort of do treatment plans based off the results. But yeah, I think like my biggest bit of advice is always to eat like more from the earth and less packaged foods, because naturally that's going to be abundant in anti-inflammatory, antioxidant rich foods, which is all the beautiful colours of plants. Like that's what feeds a healthy gut. No matter what diet you eat, like even if you do eat meat, you eat fish, you eat chicken or you're vegan, it doesn't matter. Like my advice would still be the same. We all need to eat a huge abundance of plants to feed those good gut bugs.
Yeah, I've noticed that I've had problems in the past where I've eaten the same food every day.
Yeah.
And then that works for a little bit, but then your gut diversity is not good. And that's actually been detrimental.
Yeah, you're limiting your species.
Yeah, like you got to eat what's in season and like mix up your plate. And like my new thing is I try a new vegetable or something different every week. Like how do I cook a Jerusalem artichoke? Like
I love that.
Just see whatever I can do, or even just change the color of my potatoes that week.
Yeah.
You go to Harris Farm, they've got like every color potato.
Yeah.
So just trying different ones has been really good for my gut. And yeah, I think food should be fun.
100%. Like, and it can be. I think it doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to go into a supermarket and feel overwhelmed. It's just that, like, focus on plants, like focus on the diversity. And if you ate fish yesterday, don't eat fish or you ate fish for lunch, don't eat that for dinner. Pick a different protein, like just diversifying your plate and having fun with it. I think my relationship with food has always been great. And I know that's not the case for everyone, but I think that is how we get a better relationship with food. As I always encourage, like I don't really do restrictive eating or dieting, like low FODMAP or anything in clinic, because we need more, not less when it comes to gut.
Yeah,
it's more about the quality of foods, not so much the quantity within reason.
I went on this histamine diet and that was like the worst thing ever.
Well, it often creates like more stress for people.
It was really stressful.
Yeah.
I did find it worked, and now it's been really windy here. My histamine, I'm like,
oh no,
walking around, my eyes are like, I can't see. I'm gonna have to go back on that diet for just like a few days.
Yeah, well, a lot of that's gut. So, yeah, there's beautiful supplements and herbs that you can do for hay fever and like histamine overload.
Well, obviously you are just a really health conscious person. What are your non-negotiables when it comes to preventing disease and living your healthiest life?
I guess just nailing the basics, like simplifying health. Like so many clients that I see like know that we should be moving our body every day, even if it's for 20 minutes. Get out in the sunshine. If you work in an office job, like go for a walk, spend some time in nature, see the ocean if that's what fills your cup up. Start your morning, like don't just roll out of bed and jump on social media and start scrolling. Like you're setting yourself up for a bad day. Like I think, nourishing your body well, like really just basic things. Like it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. Like for me, my partner and I are both predominantly plant-based. I'm entirely plant-based. He's pescatarian. But yeah, just nourishing our bodies. Like I've got a huge focus on food and meals, and we sit down to eat together. In the morning, like I'm very much more of an exercise in the morning kind of person, but we wake up early, like I'll take our dog for a walk, often see the sunrise, eat a really nice protein-rich brekkie, coffee after brekkie, and we'll always find some form of movement. Obviously, like the first half of the week I'm working in a hospital, so no windows. I primarily work in CT, so there is no windows. So you will never find me in the tea room at lunch. Even if it's raining, I will go for a walk or go for a drive and sit at a cafe, do something, because I just need to get out of that space and have a change of scenery. And I think just like monitoring social media, making time for things that I love and that are important to me. I think once upon a time I would say yes to so many things and fill my days to the brim, whereas now I'm more conscious with my time, and maybe what you were saying as well. Like, yeah, I just make life feel good for me, and however that may look. Like we have a sauna probably once a week. I swim in the ocean most days.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll go for a quick dip, whether it be before or after work. And things that just feel good for me depending on how I'm feeling. But I think I get a lot personally out of being in nature. So seeing the sunrise, going for a walk or a run, swimming in the ocean, like that's basically non-negotiables, and the food I eat.
Well, you said you're plant-based.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, is your dad plant-based now? Because
Yes.
I know a lot of people who have cancer opt for a plant-based diet just because it's so anti-inflammatory.
Yeah. Yes, my parents are predominantly plant-based. They occasionally eat fish. That's kind of a new thing over the last few years, which I do fully support, I guess. It's their choice ultimately. But, for the most part, they are predominantly plant-based and whole foods. Like obviously you can be vegan and eat hot chips. Like that's not doing anything for your body as far as health goes. So focus is on whole foods and plant rich and all those, again, beautiful colours on your plate. And they certainly feel better for it. Like they're both, touch wood, incredibly healthy, and Dad's he still has cancer. Like he still has 3 to 6 monthly MRIs, still has brain tumours, but they haven't grown in size or shape or anything in 4 years, which is amazing.
And that's such a positive message. One thing that me and my mum talk a lot about is that her having cancer, people always go, oh, this person died from, like they go up, they say like the worst things, but I think it's so nice to have someone on the podcast and just be like, instead of I'm fighting cancer, it's I'm living with cancer.
Yeah.
Like let's change the narrative around it because people can live with cancer for a really long time. I listened to a podcast of this lady, it's been 30 years. She still has stage 4 cancer. Yeah. But she's living with cancer.
We're living with cancer, yeah. And quality of life, like my dad's quality of life is amazing. He can't drive anymore. He lost quite a bit of his vision in his second brain surgery. One of the tumours bled. So that is his biggest sort of hurdle. And to be honest, something he has struggled with over the years because it's a big part of independence, right? Being able to drive. But
at least Hobart's really small.
Exactly. But I'm like, Dad, like if that's the worst thing that has happened, like how amazing. And he's gotten used to it now. But I think, like it's not the end. And I think for a lot of people, they go see the oncologist, they get the prognosis, they go to their GP and they do all the things. And I think that's where I'd love to say, like, do all of those things, do the treatment, do whatever feels right for you and what advice you're given, but don't stop there. Go and see a naturopath or start reading, whatever, or listen to podcasts. Like, there's so much that you can do in addition to all of these things. And I think, like your mum and my dad, like, Dad would not be here without both, I think, and feel good for it. Like, he still goes for walks, swims, bike rides. They socialise. They just went to Darwin for a few months. Like,
I think for me, what comes up there too is that because they've been close to death, they are so grateful for every single day.
Yeah.
And I take that message with me, and it sounds like you take that message with you. And it surely is a silver lining to it all, because nothing is taken for granted anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and he jumps in the water every day because that makes him feel good.
Yeah.
Whilst other people might, I'll jump in tomorrow.
Yeah.
But some people may have not had a tomorrow. So it's like, let's embrace this moment. Like, Mum has such a zest for life.
Yeah. Yeah.
For someone fighting stage 4 cancer, people just can't believe it.
Yeah.
So positive.
And I just think that's so influential, right? Like, to my family, like family friends and mum and dad's just friends. Like, I think they've been so influential to people, like watching how they eat, watching how they live, and defying odds. And it's so nice to see, because I think with radiography, I mostly see cancer because it's CT, so you're doing all the staging scans. And I certainly have become like quite desensitized to it. You have to be. But I just see so many people, and they just obviously feel sorry for themselves, which is totally understandable. But I just want to shake them and be like, yes, like, do all of this. And I understand, I don't know, like, almost like I understand what you're going through, like, and to don't stop there, like, just keep going, keep fighting, keep positive, and be grateful, because I think, and naturopathy encompasses that. Like, so much of what we do is obviously physical, but mental. Like, the way you think, the way you adapt to stress, and the way you look at a plate of food and be grateful for it, that it's nourishing, I think counts for a lot that people don't realise.
It's like Joe Dispenza, and he's all about the mind and how it can heal, and he's made people see again who are blind. Like, crazy results. And
I have to get my dad onto that.
He's got meditations. Like, the power of the mind is healing. It's so powerful. I've seen it in my mum. You've seen it in your dad. And even if it was, you didn't consciously realize it at the time, you look back on it and you're like, that's why they're still here.
Yeah, there's something in naturopathy like called constitution. Have you heard of it? So it's basically like an innate drive that we all have within us, and it ties into iridology. So iridology is the study of the iris, the coloured part of our eyes, and I did it as an elective at uni, and I'd love to delve more into that one day. Especially, I've just started in-person consults, and constitution is sort of just talking about someone's like innate ability and drive and zest for life. And it sounds like your mum has it too. Like, I have never met anyone with a stronger constitution than my dad, and it's just like that innate drive to live and to fight, even without being like obviously fighting and being hard on himself or like, it just comes naturally to him and comes easy. And I think that a lot of people have that within them, and you just need to tap into that as well.
Well, I think that's a beautiful place to end the pod. It's super positive. But I do always ask the guests the same question, which is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Such a hard question. I think, like, pretty much what we touched on. Like, I think as a younger person, I wouldn't have foreseen like life unfolding the way it did at all, and the hardship that would come with it. But I think not every hardship has to be a negative. I think obviously, would I change Dad's diagnosis? Absolutely, and their retirement and the way things panned out. But I think it shaped who I am today, shaped my sisters who they are today, and gave me a sense of purpose in a really positive way. And I think it's not only brushing off on now my immediate family, like it's inspired 2 out of 4 of us girls to pursue a career in health and share that knowledge with people. So I think for anyone going through hardship or with things to come, like it doesn't always, obviously, like give yourself the time and space in your nervous system what it needs to get through that. But I think so many positives can come out of a negative. And I think even just for my parents as well, like day-to-day life they would still say they live a very happy and healthy life.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Neisha, your energy is so calming, and I just really feel inspired, and I really hope we see that connection between conventional and naturopathy, because I think the world will really improve in a beautiful way, in a multiplier way. Whole Good Health is your amazing brand.
Yeah.
Are you allowed people to come from Sydney and do a Zoom?
Yeah, because I'm from Newcastle. I have a lot of Sydney and Newcastle-based clients.
Because I feel like a lot of the girls will want to talk to you.
Yeah, so telehealth and in person, but love doing both, and I think I'll continue to do both because, again, it shouldn't just be like a privilege to see me in person or, I want to be accessible for people.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
So nice.
If you love this episode, make sure you share it. Go follow Whole Good Health, and I'll see you on the next one.